Wife hides under bed to prank husband. It backfires. Sometimes, even after years of marriage, there is still doubt if the relationship is really meant to be. This wife decided to take her doubt into her own hands and make her husband prove that he really loved her. But her plan backfired on her and left her confused, baffled, and terrified. When people pair up, they know immediately that they will share a special bond with their significant other. But not all relationships are made equally. One wife decided to test her husband's loyalty by hiding under the bed to hear his reaction to a strange prank, and this proved to be the wrong way to find out his true feelings. After years of being happily married, this wife started to feel her husband pull away from her. She was sure that he had stopped loving her, so she soon devised the perfect plan to make him prove that he did, using an elaborate prank. She would use all of the details of their life together thus far to find out how he really felt. But when he voiced his reaction to this, she was left speechless. While she was planning her prank, her husband seemed to keep to himself more than ever. Was he having an affair and hiding it from his wife? Or did he have a secret vice or addiction that would cause a rift in their marriage? The wife was determined to find out, and the real answer might make you question your own partner. Her distrust of her husband led the woman to write a note, hashing out all of the details of their marriage to find out where things had gone wrong. She still loved her husband with all of her heart, but she had to know if he really felt the same, or if he was just putting on a brave face and wasting both of their time. To find out if her husband really loved her, the scheming wife took the letter she had written with all of the details of their relationship and ended the letter demanding a divorce. This would be the letter that she would leave her husband to find out his honest and true reaction. Sadly, her scheme was not to go off without a hitch. To see her husband's reaction to her heartbreaking letter, the wife decided that she would hide underneath their bed and leave the note on top. That way, when her husband read the note, she would find out how he truly felt. Sure, it was a pretty tricky prank for her to pull, but she didn't feel like she could get an honest reaction any other way. But would her husband see through her efforts and know she was lying? The way her prank was planned in the wife's mind was simple. She would hide while her husband read her letter, and when she heard him start crying or expressing his heartbreak in another way, she would reveal herself and comfort him, knowing that their marriage was strong. But her husband wouldn't cry at all when he found the note. In fact, his reaction might baffle you. The note written by the wife said from her point of view that she thought that the love in the relationship had faded and that their marriage was over. She knew she had to be blunt to get a reaction out of her husband. Then she placed the note on the bed and took her place underneath it. This would prove to be one of the worst decisions she had ever made. She waited under the bed for her husband to get home and read her note for quite a while. While she was under there, she had plenty of time to think and ruminate on her plan. Was this the right way to find out if her husband still loved her? What if he didn't react the way she thought he would? Soon, she would have answers to these questions, and they wouldn't be what she'd expected. As she waited for her husband to return home, she grew more and more fearful. She soon enough heard him enter the home and walk up the stairs to the bedroom. He knew that his wife would be home, but he would not expect to see that note in her place. Find out next how his wife reacted when he entered the room. When her husband finally got to the bedroom, she heard him pause to read her note. She knew it was him from the feet she could see walking around the room. While he was reading, she was frozen with fear. This could be the moment that breaks her marriage, and she couldn't bear to wait for his reaction any longer. Soon, you'll find out the devastating reaction. After her husband finished reading the note, he started to laugh. His wife then heard him take out his phone and call a friend. During his call, he said, "My marriage is finally over. I'll see you in a minute." After his call, he walked out of the room quicker than he had entered it. His wife couldn't believe what she had just heard, but she had no idea what would happen next. The phone call that her husband made really stunned the woman. Not only was her husband happy to end their marriage, but he had someone who he had confided in about it. Her mind started reeling, thinking about who he could have been talking to. Was it a mistress or one of his buddies? The real answer might make you laugh when you hear about it later. This turn of events left the woman in tears beneath the bed. She had hoped that her husband would read the note and cry or scream to prove that he really loved her as much as she loved him. Sadly, this didn't seem to be the case. She would now have to pay the price for setting these events in motion, whatever they may be. There was no doubt in her mind that the woman now had more to deal with than she did before she got under the bed. Not only was her husband happy to be freed from their relationship, but he might already be in another one. Her heart absolutely broke at the thought that her husband may be cheating on her, but was that really true? After getting out from under the bed, the woman wasn't sure what to do next. How could she rebuild her life after her marriage fell apart? But something on the bed caught her eye. On the bed, there was a note beside the one she had left. In the short moment her husband was in the room, he must have left a note for his wife to read. This note is where the story really gets interesting. After this strange turn of events, the woman was absolutely heartbroken. In tears, she picked up the note her husband left her and tried to read it despite how terrible she felt. Her eyes read the words, "Dear wife," at the top of the page, but she couldn't lead herself to read the rest of the page without crying. The note her husband left was short, and the woman already felt that she knew what the page would say. After all, he was so happy to hear that his marriage was over. What else would he need to say? Whatever it was that he had to tell her only took up a few sentences on the page, so it must have been to the point. But what did the note say? After building up the courage to finally read the letter, what she saw was stunning. The letter read, "Dear wife, next time you try to trick me into proving my love, make sure your feet aren't sticking out from underneath the bed." Wow, could this woman ever live down the way her plan terribly backfired? Although she'd planned her little prank for weeks, she didn't remember to make sure she was totally under the bed before her husband walked into the room. This flaw proved that her husband was lighthearted enough to take a joke, which is a necessary factor in any relationship. Could this woman ever get over the embarrassment? Putting the pieces of the story together, this woman realized that her husband's phone call was fake, his laughter wasn't genuine, and she hadn't just completely ruined her marriage. That'll teach her a valuable lesson in toying with other people's emotions. But did she really learn her lesson, and could her husband forgive her? Sometimes it doesn't take an elaborate prank to find out if your partner loves you or not. All it takes to have an open and honest relationship is to be open and honest yourself, as this woman quickly found out after her scheme went awry. Luckily, this prank didn't end their marriage, but did the couple stay together much longer? Sometimes, all it takes to have a trusting relationship is to know that you don't have to go to elaborate measures to find out how your partner really feels. This wife didn't get the heartbroken reaction she wanted at all by pulling her sadistic prank, but it still made their relationship stronger and more long-lasting